one of their young quarterbacks has got to play really well. And his assignment is an easier one than most. I'm never a buyer that the 49ers can just put anybody back there at quarterback. I don't buy that for a second. But whoever the 49er quarterback is, got an easier job than a lot of other quarterbacks in the NFL.
Absolutely.
Because of what he's got around him.
Right. And I think that, to me, is the question I have for you in terms of the things that they can control. And what do you want the 49ers to do? What do you want them to do with Trey Lance? And I don't want you to have to make an opinion about how you feel about Trey Lance based on your own analysis, but what do you want the Niners to do with Trey Lance? It's either you make him QB2, you make him QB3, or you trade him. Because those are the three options right now.
I don't know if I can assess QB2 or QB3. We've been there once. I've watched Sam Darnold a few times. I want them to keep him.
Yeah, so there you go.
I want them to keep him. I can't weigh in yet on 2 versus 3.
You don't have to.
I haven't seen enough.
I think that answer, and
I want them to keep him.
I guess my question for you in this vein, when you talk about what do you want the Niners to do, what I want the Niners to do is give Trey Lance some sort of a clear path. Either a clear path out, you're being traded to X team and you get a chance to go be a quarterback somewhere, or go be somebody's surefire number 2 backup, or you tell Trey Lance, this is going to be your role here, and you get to stay. And
how do they do that?
Well,
do you know what I mean? By like with the question,
they either make him QB2 or 3, or they trade him. I don't think.
But is making him QB2 or QB3 creating a path for him?
Yes, because odds are your quarterback's going to get hurt. Your quarterback tends to always get hurt here with the San Francisco 49ers. So if you're a backup here in San Francisco, you are statistically more likely to play than in other destinations where quarterbacks haven't gotten hurt.
Yeah.
And that might be luck of the draw. I might be drawing conclusions that are inaccurate in terms of the National Football League.
They're historically accurate.
Right.
I don't know if it's kind of like flipping a coin where it reboots every time. Like, in other words, as we start this year, and by the way, you're listening to 95.7 The Game, KGMZ FM and HD1 San Francisco, always live on Twitch, YouTube, and the free Odyssey app. This is kind of an interesting question. Like, as we sit here today, do you think that it is, with the 49ers, more likely than other NFL teams that their QB gets hurt?
Yes.
See, I don't. Why do you think that?
Well, why don't you think that?
Because
as I answer a question with a question, which is a big no-no in this business.
No, it's fine.
I think it's annoying.
Well, but it's a fair one. But I do look at it like a coin flip. I do look at it like a coin flip. People will, there's a mutual exclusivity to that. You flip a coin and it's heads, there are people who are like, well, tails is due. Sure. No, it's not. It's a 50-50 shot every time you huck it in the air. It has nothing to do with what happened before. And I look at this way. I really do. It's football. Every single player on that field, I know players who literally say that to each other in the huddle. Play every play like it's your last.
Yeah.
Because they know it might be. It's that crazy out there. And so every player on every play could get hurt, and it could be serious. Hell, one of them almost lost their life last year. So I don't look at someone who's played 8 games and another one who's played 4, and even though that both of them have now had multiple injuries in those short samples, I don't look at them and think to myself, yeah, you're now more likely than Jalen Hurts or Matt Stafford, also who got hurt last year, or Kyler Murray. I don't look at you as more likely to get hurt than them.
I look at this, the coin flip thing is an interesting way to look at it, but there's also the human element of players who have an injury history and their likelihood of a re-injury, depending on the injury. And we talked to Doc Pandya of UCSF Health about, Brock Purdy's UCL and how that might potentially be re-injured, because it's kind of a weird injury. It's not an ankle where, you sprain it in week 4 and it's going to be gimpy for a while, and you might re-injure it, Steph Curry style, or other injuries like Jimmy Garoppolo, a guy who got hurt a lot. And Brock Purdy, who's been hurt twice, and Trey Lance, who's had 2 injuries. I think these players tend to get injured more often. Some players tend to get injured more often than other players.
I would also argue, by the way, we say now because we found out yesterday the nature of it, that Brock Purdy getting hurt twice, but one of them, it didn't knock him out. So it doesn't count. Because players are hurt all the time and we don't know about it.
Well, I think that's also part of it.
And they play through it. So Brock Purdy broke a rib against the Bucs. He played the rest of the game, played well. 4 days later, they went to Seattle. He played well again. The Niners won both of the games. And end of story.
Justin Herbert got hurt.
Yep.
I don't know if it was a broken rib or it was intercostal. It was coastal Carolina, as I like to call it. Fracture of some sort. Patrick Mahomes had a severely sprained ankle and missed about 2 series and came back. So there is part of that needs to go in this equation, which makes it not a coin flip, because some players are tougher than others, able to fight through injury more than others, and other systems don't expose their quarterbacks to the same amount of physical duress as other systems.
Yeah, see, now those are 2 different points.
And, those are both 2 points.
And one of them I don't agree with.
Right.
That the 49ers system opens up its quarterback to more injuries than other teams. That's the one that always gets me. I don't buy that for a second, especially when, and I know Kyle Shanahan has tried to do this, when you spotlight each injury. Now, if you want to have, and I know you don't because we've already done it, like if you want to have the discussion just about Trey Lance because of how much he was running the ball, that's fine. But that's one injury.
Yep.
And in fact, his previous injuries did not happen in such a manner. They happened in the pocket. And then if you go to the Garoppolo injuries, they did not, like Garoppolo turning left and then turning back right to the field against the Chiefs to tear an ACL. I'm not putting that on Kyle Shanahan and his system. In fact, none of Jimmy's injuries to me have anything to do with the system. And I would argue that with Brock too.
Well, to me, the Jimmy injuries speak to my earlier point about some players are more susceptible to injury, and maybe it's because Jimmy's got weak ligaments in his knees.
Maybe.
I've never had a chance to look at his MRIs before and after injuries, but some players are more susceptible to injury or seem to have a bigger history of injury. And Jimmy Garoppolo is one of those players. He's had a myriad of injuries, and part of that is bad luck, and it's also perhaps just an unfortunate part of who you choose to use as quarterbacks.
I'm trying to remember and going back, because a lot of people have been throwing this out there as of late with regard to, again, if you remove decisions that were made by teams, how many quarterbacks made it through a full season last year without getting hurt? And you kind of have to remove the teams that made changes by choice. So in
teams
other words,
that wanted to have a look at a guy.
Yeah, like Houston, get out of here. You don't get to be a part of this conversation. Indianapolis Colts, get out of here. The Pittsburgh Steelers, get out of here. We know what happened with the Cleveland Browns last year. But, Lamar Jackson got hurt. Joe Burrow did not. Josh Allen did not. Tua did. If you go through the whole league and you just take my guess would be 15 to 20 teams who never made a quarterback change by choice and looked at how many of their quarterbacks made it through the full season and how many didn't, I bet it's a little bit more than half.
Well, here are the big 8 who played in every game.
Okay.
You had Mahomes, Herbert, Brady, Cousins, Goff, Geno Smith, Trevor Lawrence, and Aaron Rodgers.
Okay.
Those quarterbacks played all 17. And then you get to Daniel Jones, who played 16.
It's pretty close.
Yeah. Jacoby Brissett played 16.
Well, but that was not necessarily a choice situation.
Right. Then you get to Jalen Hurts, played 15.
Yep.
That was due to injury. Russell Wilson played 15, also due to injury. Derek Carr played 15. Now, that was one where they said, please go away.
Choice.
That was a please go away.
That was a choice.
That one, I'll give him, he would have played all 17 had he and the Raiders been in a different space.
Correct.
So that one I agree.
Healthy enough to do so.
Yes, that one Doesn't count. Davis Mills of Houston played 15.
Yeah, we were in Houston.
They wanted to see.
They're messing around with all kinds
Justin
of stuff.
Fields played 15. That was due to injury.
How about Trevor Lawrence? Was he on the
Trevor
list?
was on the 17.
Yeah.
Trevor Lawrence was one of the big. There was 8 QBs who played them all.
My guess.
Only 8.
And this is just by holding a finger in the air. If you're a team that clearly wanted one guy to start all 17, it feels like you got about a 60% shot of doing it.
I'll give you 50% roughly, yeah.
And those who don't, sound like most of the names just missed 1 to 2, maybe 3 games.
And here's the list of 14s. And this, I think, is a really telling example of what you're talking about because it's a mixed bag. McCorkle Jones played 14. Well, Bailey Zappi, he got hurt, and then he got healthy, and they still went with Zappi. So that's a bit of a mixed bag. Andy Dalton played 14 in New Orleans, and that was due to injury because I think they started with Jameis, right? And then he got hurt, and then they went to Dalton.
I feel like Jameis at the start of the year, and that lasted for about four quarters or something. I don't know.
Tua played 13, and that was due to injury.
Bad concussions.
God, bad injury.
That's amazing with what the year he had that he played 13 games.
Kenny Pickett played 13, which was due to ineffectiveness.
But he didn't start the year, right?
Right.
Yeah, Trubisky started the year for a second, right?
Mariota played 13.
Okay, that was a decision. That was not health related.
Now you're getting down to the 12s, which Matt Ryan played 12, and Indy was kind of a, Indy. They benched Ryan, and then they brought in Jeff Saturday, and then Ryan was back. That was kind of a weird one. But Dak played 12, Tannehill played 12, Lamar played 12, Maker Bayfield played 12, Jimmy G played 11. Calamari got hurt. He played 11. Stafford played 9. You see the point. I think when you deal with teams that would have had one guy, it's about 50%.
Yeah.
And the other 50%, unfortunately, where the Niners have fallen almost every year under Shanahan, is the necessity teams. The teams that, due to injury, have had to play other guys. The Niners have never, under Shanahan, made a switch other than that first year when they went to Jimmy G without there being an injury. Right. Am I right in saying that?
I think
they haven't benched a guy.
Right. They haven't pulled someone.
Right. Somebody's gotten hurt.
Jimmy G was traded, let him sit there for a few weeks, and they put him in there. That was the only one. Outside of that, it's always been
due to injury, yeah.
And because Jimmy was the guy the whole time. And then sometimes he would get hurt.
Sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. And then Trey got 5 quarters. Then he got hurt.
And back to Jimmy, and then we got Brock, and the rest is history. So, in terms of what I want the Niners to do, of things that they can control, I want them in the next 27 days to really give Trey a chance. That doesn't mean let him start. That means either trade him and let him go get a chance somewhere else, probably as somebody's backup to start. Maybe he's a backup plus, or you give him a real shot to be QB2 at least at some times. That's what I want for Trey Lance.
Give him a shot to be QB2.
Yeah.
You mean after the season starts?
Yes. Or maybe as in the opener. You're QB2. Sam, you're our emergency third. And you know what, Trey? We're going to give you a package of plays. Or we're going to give you, it worked in his rookie year.
I hate it.
Trey's package was wonderful.
According to who?
There's a bunch of my drops on his package.
I know, but they were like, what makes you think it worked?
He threw the first touchdown pass of the year.
Right, so that's all anyone else remembers.
I'm not talking about the 2 QB shenanigans that Kyle Shenanigans tried. Yeah, I would imagine that the package is pretty nice.
Okay, and he came out weeks later, and he was like, it messed us up, having Trey's package.
It wasn't the package that messed him up. It was he
disagrees.
You in and you out. No, it was when he ran in and then ran out.
He was talking about even in practice. He's like, they were wasting time. And by the way, this should speak to some people with regard to the way they called plays for Trey the following year when he was the starter, and everyone hates how much he ran the ball. But it's a completely different book. It's a totally different book. It's a different set of plays when you have someone who has a different skill set. And he talked about how it messed with their it just created confusion because there's too much going on. It was the in, it was the out, it was the practice time. They felt that it was very disruptive. and certainly not getting enough as a reward to cause that disruption.
And by the way, according to all reports from down in Santa Clara, they haven't seen, Matt Barrows, all the other reporters haven't seen a Trey Lance package being practiced like last year. Like last year was a little different, but 2 years ago when he was the rookie coming in, there was a whole specific set of plays that they ran with Trey Lance as the one. He's getting, of course, no first team reps.
Right.
There's no apparent Trey Lance package.
Yeah, it does not feel like that's the way they're going. I mean, to be honest with you, and this is where I feel like the conversation gets difficult because people get told that they hate Trey or they're trying to run him out of town or they're being negative or whatever when all they're really doing is assessing what they think the 49ers think. And if I look at the 49ers right now, it does not appear to me that they have any major plans for Trey Lance.
Well, they have some plans for Trey Lance to either be the 2 or the 3 or to trade him.
No, I think they sit here right now at a time where they're just assessing things.
Of course.
Yeah.
I don't think they have any major plans for anybody other than Brock Purdy. If Kyle Shanahan was asked, what do you want from this year? Kyle would say, I want to go 17-0. I want to run the table in the playoffs and go to Vegas for the Super Bowl and stuff and win and be showered by confetti and be the first team to ever go 20-0. That's what I want. Okay, Kyle, what do you want in terms of your quarterback position? Well, I want to be able to play Brock Purdy and stuff and have him be really good. And, and I want to have a couple of really big leads and stuff and have a chance to play my backup and stuff and have him go out there and get some reps. And maybe Trey Lance can play great like Mick Willard said on the radio and stuff. And, if Trey can flash in those spots, then in the off season and stuff, I can trade Trey Lance and stuff.
Yeah,
that's honestly what you said about 3 weeks ago.
I don't think he
would be the ideal.
Right, but I don't think Kyle, that's not a Kyle thing. Like, yes, he's a high level person in the organization. I think Kyle thinks about trades, maybe once or twice a year. I don't think that's,
of course,
he's not worried about that.
But if you're beating Pittsburgh 35-6 and
put him in.
Kenny Pickett tries a 4th down pass at midfield and it's knocked down by Mooney Ward. Let's go to the backup, Trey Lance.
Yeah, but the problem with that is that the world's going to want to see what Trey can do.
Let Trey cook.
Yeah, which would be completely rude and inappropriate,
of course, for
him to come in and start hawking the ball all over the field like so many of you are convinced he's going to do if he just had a second to breathe. That's not the way this works. It's so unfortunate. That's what I'm getting at. What's the path? Where's the lane? What do you want the Niners to do?
Look at you going to the notebook. What do you want?
What can they do? You want them to do something that they can't do.
They can keep him as a backup.
Yes.
In case and when Brock Purdy gets hurt and stuff.
That's all a backup quarterback is a just in case.
Shout out Jaheim.
It's not a plan. It's not a path. It's not a let's see what happens here. It's a just in case. But I hate it. But
wasn't just in case an old Atlanta Falcon quarterback? Stony Case is who it was.
So.
Anyway,
yeah.
Stony Case.
Yeah.
I think if Sam's going to beat out Trey, then I want Trey to be traded. That's my own wish for Trey Lance.
That's fine.
You started this whole conversation with what do you want? And I want for Trey Lance, him to have some, I don't know if closure is the right way to put it, but a path toward being able to play football.
Sure, I want that
too. Being QB2 is a path. It's not a direct path. Being QB3 to me, you are nowhere, my dude.
I agree with you from a human standpoint, but I know you know this damn well. The 49ers are not in the business of just being here to be nice to people, and fans should not want that. So I don't want Trey to be traded just so Trey can have a chance and go somewhere. No. The 49ers should do what's best for the 49ers. And if that means he's QB3, if that means you worry about it next year because there's no good offer out there, if it means QB2, if it means Brock gets hurt and he ends up being a star, anything in between, the 49ers at all points should do what's best for them.
Agreed.
They drafted him. He's a piece of their franchise. This is not, there are these cases, Alex Smith, Colin Kaepernick. This is not one of those where you need to get a guy out of town because it's just too big of a deal for your franchise to handle.
Agreed.
They can handle this.
But if the difference between Sam, Trey, and Brandon is very minor, then it's actually better for the organization to trade Trey Lance. You get the cap savings, and you keep Brandon Allen as QB3. If you believe.
If someone's going to offer you something.
If you take a fifth. And I think now you will. Well, it's either that or you cut him.
Well,
if you think that those three are all very close, let's say it's a three-way tie.
Yeah.
It's a dead heat. Shout out horse racing.
Well, then I would keep Trey.
Well, I think if you,
I don't care about cap savings. I don't care about cap savings. They want to create.
You want to keep Brandon Ayuk for next year, and so
there'd be plenty of time to do that.
Of course, but you would love if you think that the three quarterbacks are basically the same dude, or maybe you think that Brandon Allen and Trey Lance are the same guy because it feels like they think that Sam is a little bit better than Trey and Brandon. If you think that Sam is your QB2 and that those two are battling for QB3, then it does more for the organization to trade Trey Lance than it does to keep him and pay QB3 $10 million.
Maybe. It depends on what they're being offered, I think.